Hi, and welcome to the Ministry Network podcast. I'm your host, James Baird. Today, we'll be speaking with Dr. Justin Holcomb. Dr. Holcomb is a professor at Reformed Theological Seminary, and along with his wife, the author of the book, God Made All of Me. In this episode, we'll be talking about how to prevent child sexual abuse. The Ministry Network podcast is sponsored by Westminster Theological Seminary. To learn more about Westminster and their new online programs, visit ministrynetwork.com/degree. Now, let's speak with Dr. Holcomb. You also talk about the difference between secrets and surprises. Can you tell us about what the difference is between those two things and why it's important?
Absolutely. Well, this is another one that's a strategic one. A perpetrator is going to use the category of secret. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to take away access and tools of evildoers against children. And they will say, hey, this is our secret. We want to keep this a secret. Make sure you don't tell anyone. Dirty things happen to dirty girls. This will be our secret. I'm here to, you can count on me. If you don't keep this secret, bad things will happen to your family or to you. And so secret is this category. And so instead of just saying, you don't want to take the category away, you got to replace it. So this is a classic parenting move, usually when they're a little bit younger, but if they have something you don't want them to play with, like the remote control, you take the remote control and you give them something else in its place. Instead of just give me my remote control and then they're angry. So you take away secret, you give them surprise. And there's a big difference. So in the book, the whole image, this is the one place where we have some darkness, and because we're using it as a foil for the surprise, secrets are isolating, alone, you can't share them, and it's shadowy. But surprises are moments of joy. So the next page is a present with balloons, and I think it's a surprise party. And there's good news. There's other people, and people are happy. And so it brings delight. So secrets bring loneliness and shame and darkness, and surprises bring delight and joy. And secrets are isolating and excluding, and surprises are including. And so that's the reason. So again, if you do this well, your child will just be minding their business. A fellow student will say at the lunch table, hey, I got a secret for you. And then my daughter yells out, no secrets! I don't want to hear secrets! Well, the secret is usually innocent, like, hey, I'm going to have a birthday party and I can't invite everyone, but I want you to come to my birthday party, so it has to be our secret. So there's nuancing, but in general, I'd rather have to nuance that than deal with the misuse of the category of secret. So just like body parts, just like touch, secret's another tool that gets used against children to make them feel isolated, alone, shameful, and like if they tell the secret, something bad will happen to them or their siblings or their family. And when parents are abusers, especially if it's one parent against the other, it gets used to create a rift between the healthy parent, if they're unaware and not complicit, and the evildoer parent. And so we wrote this book also knowing that not all family members are safe for children, and we wanted to make it easy if there is a parent or caregiver who is suspicious or nervous or worried or knows. This is a way to have that conversation with their child in a way that prepares them for future application of this wisdom. So that's another piece of the secret, because parents have used the secret thing against the other parent to keep their evil against their child a secret.
Yeah, it displays how your book isn't just teaching something, it's actually doing something for the family.
Yeah, we're trying to give them strategic tools and respond. Like if Satan's roaming around seeking whom he may devour, and what we know about perpetrators is that perpetrators in their grooming process are methodical. They are like a stalking lion, stalking prey. They will groom for months. They will groom the adults around that child. They will pinpoint which child doesn't have a lot of parental involvement, might look lost, likely from a broken home where they get forgotten in the conflict between the parents. And some child with a child that has behavioral problems because they won't be believed if they end up reporting, they are a perpetrator. The average perpetrator who violates boys has an average of 150 victims. The average perpetrator who violates girls has like 30 or 40. And what that means, those are a lot, and that's in the lifetime, is that they're really good at what they do. They're intentional, they're strategic, they're methodical, they know how to lie, they know how to communicate. And parents and caregivers need to be on their game, to be aware of how intentional. This isn't just some dirtbag going, oh, I'm feeling lustful, and then they happen to just see the nearest person who happens to be a child. This is a certain type of evil that gets manifested in a particular way, very methodically, intentionally, and strategically. And so what you're picking up on is trying to counter that strategy with another strategy of wisdom from the kingdom and from Scripture.
So helpful. So let's get into some of the brass tacks. How should parents think about the risks of hiring babysitters?
That you are in brass tacks, and I'm gonna say what we do, because I don't want people to feel, and if they might think we're going too far or not far enough. I want to be careful on people using their wisdom and their intuition, but a lot of the stories we've heard about children who were sexually abused were the babysitters. So because most perpetrators are men, we have never allowed a male to watch our children by themselves. So one rule of thumb that I offer to parents when asked is I just tell them, we do not have boys as babysitters. And if there is a young woman or an adult woman who's babysitting, their boyfriends or husbands are not welcome. So that's just keep them away. There's never an excuse. And another thing about babysitters is every babysitter we've talked to, we have told them, hey, our thing is child sexual abuse prevention. Just so you know, there's no reason. Now, it's different ages. Sometimes you have to change the diaper. Sometimes you have to help them go to the bathroom. So you have to, but when we were talking to them, we would say they can go to the bathroom by themselves. If there's ever an accident that they can't handle themselves, go ahead and give us a call. And we'll walk you through. Maybe we'll come home. Maybe we'll walk you through it. We might have to FaceTime with them if they're embarrassed. And we will ask them if they feel safe with you. And that's just a normal question because we want them to know that we care that they feel safe. So we're not doing that because we doubt you and we think you're a creeper. But we will be asking them, and if we hear anything, we'll let you know. Don't ever take pictures of them. We know they're adorable. We think they're wonderful and adorable, and they're going to do and say funny things that are cute. And you'll probably play dress up, and you might want to take a picture and send it to your friends and be like, these are the cutest kids. Just don't take pictures of them because that's another tool that a perpetrator uses. Like, hey, come over here. Let me take a picture of you. Come over here, sit on my lap. Let's take a picture. Oh, I'm going to take off my shirt and flex my muscles. Take a picture. Okay, now you take off your shirt and flex your muscles. Like the phone picture thing becomes a game. Ask for references. Who else have you babysat for? And can we have their phone number? And then you call those people. Unfortunately, a lot of jobs when you apply, they don't call your references. I call references, and I'm surprised at what I hear sometimes. And then once you find the people, this is our rule of thumb, once you find the people you really trust, you pay them so well they want to work for you. And we've tried to pay our babysitters better than we think the going rate is. And we tell them, like, hey, it's real, like, we trust you. And we've always had a stable of babysitters. We've been really blessed to have spectacular babysitters. So if any of the babysitters ever hear this, we've entrusted our kids to them for hours, and they've been amazing. Our children still talk about their babysitters, about how just fun and cool and how they made them feel safe when they were afraid because mom and dad were gone. And so I think having your antenna up on babysitter conversations, and I get it. Sometimes there's an emergency and you can't do everything. But for the most part, when you're hiring a babysitter, you're not in an emergency mode. You can do your due diligence and do that. But just be really clear about the rules. No phones, no reason for a man to ever be over here, and a few of the other things. We'll be talking to our kids about how they feel and the whole changing them or helping in the bathroom, whatever the age appropriate is. Those are some of the basic rules of thumb that I think are helpful to consider. There's probably some others that we left out, but I think that'll get the conversation going in the right direction.
Wow, that's super helpful. And how you framed your response kind of assumes, with checking references and such, that they aren't really close friends or family members. How do you think about friends and family members who are babysitters? Is that safer, less safe?
The thing is, perpetrators, 35% of perpetrators are family members. 65 are known acquaintances and trusted people to the child. And so I'm glad you brought this up. So friends and family members, you don't do references on them. I think if you trust them and you have no gut reason to not trust them, they're not a known offender in other parts of their life, not regarding your child, but a person of integrity, letting them know, hey, just so you know, like whenever we're leaving with babysitters, that's a normal question that they're used to. So if we get home and they say, hey, Uncle so-and-so was really nice, like, just so you know, that's not weird for them to talk about. So you want to signal to them, we're involved, but that's how trust works and then asking the child, like, hey, did you feel safer? Like, my sister and her husband are spectacular, and I don't have any, like, I think they would both sacrifice a ton, if not their life, for their nieces. I would not be surprised if there was like, they need a kidney? Absolutely. When an eye, like anything I got two of that I don't need, you can have. And I would, if it came down to their life or their nieces, I think they would both pick their nieces. That's how much I know they love them. So I don't doubt that they're safe, but I want my daughters to know, hey, this relationship with my sister and my brother-in-law is very important. I trust them with you. I have no reason to doubt. But when I'm alone with you, I'm going to say, hey, did you feel safe? Did they make you feel important? How did that work? Do you feel okay? And they're like, yeah. Just because there's an importance to that question. We leave our children with, grandparents. So when you trust them, you have that conversation. You identify whom to trust. And we say, hey, we trust these babysitters. We trust these family members. I wouldn't trust that person over there. We tell our daughters who we don't trust. Like, I would never leave you with that neighbor over there. I don't like the way they talk to their kids, or, the parents, going over to that house, the parents just kind of checked out. And so I love that question, because there needs to be intentionality and not just assuming the best about, we're Christians of all people. We have a doctrine of sin, and we know how sin works. We know, we do things we don't want to do, and we don't do the things we're supposed to do. And sin still lurks in our hearts. And because of that, we know what we're capable of, and we know what other people are capable of. And so we take our doctrine of sin seriously, and we act on that. So I think there's important, clear conversations to have with family members about, when you're watching the kids.
That's great. It's really helpful. And it's a little counterintuitive to be so watchful even when kids are with family members, maybe family members that raised you, but embrace the awkward.
Well, and because of that, I have no qualms, because I know my parents. I have no qualms with my family members and parents. I have no qualms with my wife's family. But I know that's not always the case. And there's uncles and cousins and nieces and there's people in extended family that are not always the safest. And it can create some awkwardness. And, hey, I'm imagining if you have a larger family, hey, why do you always leave your kids with so-and-so, but not us? Like, and then you might have reasons. I don't know how you have that conversation, but that's what this causes is, and then are you willing as a parent to appease that family member, even though your gut and your intuition and whatever, maybe reasons that you have, is not to leave them because you want to make them feel better? Are you a people pleaser at your child's expense? Well, I'd recommend not doing that. It's going to be painful and awkward, but yeah, if you have a sister who married a creepy guy who you don't trust, who, for whatever reasons, and well, no, you don't just, hey, let me make a show of our trust in you by letting you hang out with our 3-year-old for a weekend. It's not how it works.
Yeah, too high a price. How about sleepovers? Is that a safe activity for children, or how do you think about?
Nope.
No.
No.
Okay, next question.
No, I'm glad you picked up on that. Sleepovers. So some of the stories we hear are, when I was 5, my babysitter, and sometimes it's the female babysitter. So the getting a female babysitter is not the solution. my babysitter did this. The other one I hear is when I was doing a sleepover at my friend's house, the friend, a parent, an older sibling, I hear so many stories as a pastor and as someone who works on this field a lot, and my wife, who is the case manager for survivors. I've heard so many stories about things that happen at sleepovers. You're not, as a parent, like, I want to know who's going to be there. Is there an older brother? Is there an older sister? Are they coming back from college? Are they in high school? Who's coming in and out of the house? Like, I don't assume that house over there is run the way our house is run and managed and led. And I never had anything happen at a sleepover with regard to abuse. I saw some of the most horrific pornography at sleepovers. I didn't grow up in a house where we had Playboys laying around. I know that's normal for some kids, but that's not our house. And when I went, I still remember the first hardcore pornographic picture I saw when I was 11 at a sleepover. And this is 35 years ago, and I can still remember the picture. There's things that happen at sleepovers. And so we just say, hey, so what do you do? Do you just remove the sleepover? Just like secret, you take the secret away and there's no surprise? No, the parents need to go bigger. If you're going to make this commitment, you go bigger. And you're like, you know what? We're not going to do a sleepover because no one really wants to sleep at someone else's house anyway because everyone wants to sleep in their own bed. Let's have a really awesome, like, full day party and movie night, and we'll make sure the parents come over and get you right before they go to sleep. And there's going to be a lot of candy. There's going to be lots of popcorn. We're going to watch 2 movies. Like, instead of taking away the fun of the sleepover, you replace it with way more fun. So the kids go, yeah, who wants a sleepover when you can have that? And so, one thing that, we found some really, really cheap passes for Universal here in Orlando. And so we're doing as much as possible. And most families now, which is really helpful, aren't doing sleepovers. It's not like you have to write a book about this and you're the weird, like we used to be the weirdos, when our children were younger. But we've just noticed culturally people are going, you know what? I've heard enough stories with that Me Too stuff, and I know my own story. I'm not doing this. But we're doing everything we can. I want our house to be the place that is fun to be at, and my daughters aren't embarrassed because their weirdo parents don't let them have any fun. I'm like, no, hey, make sure, let's pick a friend and let's go to Universal. And let's have a good day, and we're going to eat whatever you want, and, all that kind of stuff. And so that way they associate the family not with embarrassment, weirdo parents, but like, oh, we're the fun family. Like, I will happily, for the sake of my children not being embarrassed by our rules, take 2 other children on a weekend to go off, and the parents get to have time by themselves and rest and relax, all that kind of stuff. And I think you have to replace it. You have to replace the sleepover. So I think they're dangerous for the most part. So we don't do them, and we have good reasons not to. And I recommend parents not, unless there's a reason to.
And let's be honest, sleepovers weren't really fun. I mean, they sounded fun, but then you always regretted it. You stayed up too late. You called your mom at 2 a.m.
Yes, I'm a homebody, and I was when I was a kid. The reason I didn't do a sleepover until I was like 11 or 12 is because I tried before, and I was always caught. My stomach always hurt right when the lights went out. I'm like, Mr. So-and-so, can you call my stomach hurts? And all the parents were always so sweet. Remember how sweet those parents were? Like, of course, kiddo. Mine's not feeling well either. I'm like, thanks, helping you save face. So yeah, no one likes that hot mess. And your parents don't want to wake up and come get you at 2 o'clock in the morning either. So save yourself the headache of just having to wake up and drive in the middle of the night by not doing sleepovers.
Yeah, and you got to go to Universal too, so. Well, so even when we're really diligent with protecting our kids, tragedy can still strike. What should a parent do if they discover that their kid has been abused despite their best efforts to avoid that circumstance?
The first thing are 3 words: report, don't investigate. If you suspect something, report it to the authorities. Report. You're not an investigator. I mean, I know this field. I wouldn't trust myself to go to that person and start investigating the claim to help them save face. I don't want people to be embarrassed. This is going to be awkward. You report it. Because the person who does perpetrate, most likely they've had dozens of victims in their lifetime. And most likely they've been challenged before. They've probably been approached by a pastor or a parent, been interviewed by the police. They're skilled at lying, and they will be very persuasive. Let me tell you something about perpetrators. Half of all perpetrators abuse children in the presence of other children or adults. Half of abuse. Now, why is that? Is it because they're so overwhelmed by lust they can't help but touch the private parts? No, because it's a great defense. So there's stories of being in a classroom behind the desk, the teacher touching private parts of a student in front of a class of 20 people that no one else can see it. That communicates no one's going to believe you. Like, what happens when the child goes, hey, I'm at my Christian school, at my Sunday school, and so touched my, this fill in the blank part. And what's the response? So if I'm the perpetrator and I'm doing that, I'm thinking, really? You think I touched this kid in front of a whole bunch of other people? Come on, this is ridiculous. And then the kid's not believed. And so once you know that, that's helpful to know. They know exactly what they're doing. They're very strategic. So report, don't investigate. Tell the authorities and let them do what they do. They're actually experts at this. This is not the first time they've heard this. They know how to do the investigation. They know when to show up at the school and talk to the kid, when to show up and talk to the parents and the other people involved. And then if you have reason to believe it happened, don't shame the child. That's why you want to get a professional who knows how to ask the questions, because a parent might say something like, why'd you let that happen? You know better than that. Suddenly the kid did something wrong. Let a therapist who's a specialist get in there and also find out what happened, but also to help communicate, wasn't your fault. This is a bad person who did a bad thing. This is evil. God doesn't like it. And then if it happened because of the parent's negligence, it's powerful to apologize. But don't apologize the way you set up is tragedy can still strike no matter how vigilant. My wife and I are vigilant. There's no guarantee that something won't happen to them. And if I'm responsible, I want to apologize to them. If I'm not, I'm just going to say, I'm sorry this happened to you. Now we're here to help, support, and love and serve you. You can talk about this. You're going to have emotions about this, and we want to hear them. And so the most important thing, so report, don't investigate, let the authorities do their work, get a therapist involved, and listen to and believe your child. The most important thing you can do to support a survivor of sexual abuse is to listen and believe them. Survivors have said that. The most helpful thing, the most helpful response to when we disclose is to be listened to and believed. Not, oh, so-and-so wouldn't do that. They're your Sunday school teacher. I'm sure he didn't mean that. I'm sure she didn't mean that. Like, that just minimizes what the child's going through and thinking, and the power of their parent looking them in the eye and saying, that's evil, that should not have been done to you, and we're going to get justice, and I believe you, and let's talk as much as you need to about this. That's the most powerful response.
After this conversation, I'm sure listeners are starting to wonder, either they're already paranoid or they're wondering, is it right to be a little paranoid about your child's safety?
Yeah. I mean, look at what we do. We teach swimming safety. We're throwing babies in water and making them flip over and tread water. Why? Because there's pools. We don't want children to drown. We teach biking safety. This is how you cross the street. You have your helmet on. You look these ways. We teach fire safety. This is where you go if there's a fire in the school or if there's a tornado and a hurricane. I mean, we teach safety all over the place, and it's appropriate safety. It would be irresponsible for us not to. That's why we also need to teach body safety of private parts, touch, all this, because of the statistics I told you. If 90% of perpetrators against children are family members or friends and acquaintances, that's hard to, you can't just see the perpetrator. You can't just figure out, oh, that's a perpetrator because I know what they look like. Because I've seen what they look like. Some of them look like drug addicts. Some of them look poor. But most people think, oh, that's what the perpetrator looks like, a poor drug addict. I've also seen the judge. I've seen the white-collar leaders. I've seen the business people. I've seen the doctors, nurses. I've seen child protection agents abuse children and get convicted. Pastors, youth pastors, counselors, police officers. I've seen everyone. So you don't know who a child sexual perpetrator is. So the 90% should get our attention. The fact that perpetrators have dozens and dozens, at least 30 and up to 150, when you catch them, they go, oh, thank God I got caught. This is the first time I've ever thought about this. That's most likely a lie anyway. They're skilled at deception. They're skilled at their grooming. It is their craft that they've worked on for hours, and they know exactly what they're doing, and they're hunting prey. Well, if you know that puts your antenna up. So I don't want people, that's why I liked your previous question. Hey, we can be diligent, but tragedy still strikes. Yeah, be diligent and walk in the Spirit. I mean, that's what it means is we've done everything we can and we walk. We walk in faith. We trust that God loves these kids more than we do. You cannot be there all the time. You've done everything you possibly can, and God forbid something happens. So I'm not paranoid. We don't even want to create a culture of fear around this conversation, but I'm vigilant, diligent, very aware. I don't assume the best of people because my doctrine of sin tells me not to assume the best of people. But I also don't believe in utter depravity. That's not our theological position either. And so I want parents not to be, I don't want them to be paranoid or fearful. I want them to be vigilant and realistic with the statistics and what we know. There's a book by Anna Salter. She interviewed convicted, they agreed they're child sexual abuse predators. And it's chilling to read how they respond. They would say, this is my strategy, this is what I did. They don't trust themselves. I actually wrote a convicted child sex offender when I was in college, and said, hey man, because of what you did, his name's Wesley Allen Dodd. You can actually look up the story of what he did. It was horrific. And I said, you're going to die, and you have the opportunity of knowing that Jesus Christ died for sins, and you can put your faith in him. And he wrote me back and said, I don't tell people this. I actually have the letter. I don't tell people this, but I trusted in Christ and was baptized. I've been studying the Bible for years. I just don't want to use that as an excuse because I don't want to ever get out. I don't trust myself. I know I'm a new creation. I don't trust the evil that I've done in my temptation to ever harm someone ever again. That was chilling. And then when you read so he said, I'm going to go be with the Lord. I deserve what I've done. I deserve these consequences. And he was executed. I'm not trying to get into capital punishment conversation at all. It was just mind-blowing to have that type of response. And then you have these interviews with convicted sex offenders saying what kind of the recidivism of child sexual abuse perpetrators is so high. There's just so much going into it. We should be very vigilant. And so not paranoid, but if paranoid gets parents to pay more attention for a season, that's fine. But just be responsible.
Well, this has just been an extremely helpful conversation, Dr. Holcomb. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your book, God Made All of Me. It's been fantastic for me and my wife, and apparently 100,000 other people as well. So thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, and thanks again, like I said at the beginning, thank you for giving some time to this and putting the podcast and ministry kind of spotlight on this issue. And I love the fact that there's people like you and the team getting the word out to more and more ministry leaders and families, and children about this. And just joyful that there's joining in the partnership of the joy of knowing that hundreds and thousands of children will be affected by this conversation we just had.
Join us next time as we talk with Paul Miller. In the meantime, you can visit ministrynetwork.com/degree to learn about the new online offerings available at Westminster Theological Seminary.